Good morning, everybody. Entrepreneur and businessman. And a lot of people, of course, know this person as from Ignite Dispensary Cigar. Timothy Frey is our very special guest this morning on Thursday, April 17th, 2025. For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden, and you're watching DrydenWire Live, presented by Americans for Prosperity, Wisconsin. AFP Wisconsin works to reignite the American dream and break down government barriers that hold us back from our full potential. Visit AFPWisconsin.com to learn more and join AFP to fight for more freedom for all Wisconsinites. With that said, I'm very excited to be chatting once again on this, our fourth annual 420 show. Friend of the show and a personal friend of mine, here to talk all things cannabis, Mr. Timothy Frey. Tim, good morning.
Morning, Ben. Thanks for having me, bud.
Has it been a year already?
I know, it goes fast, man. It goes fast, for sure.
Oh, my goodness. It's so bizarre. When you had texted, like, hey, don't forget, that week is 420. I'm like, it felt like you were on not that long ago. And I love having you on because every time you're on, I get a little bit closer to going, maybe we should legalize. So this is, I love having you on. I really, really do. But at first, I have a bone to pick with you.
Okay.
So at our house, every once in a while, we have bats. And we have insects and everything else. I think you know where I'm going with this. And and we hired somebody, a lot of people know this person, Nader the Exterminator. And that dude is just brilliant, and he is awesome. He's been on a roof fixing holes just to, prevent the bats from coming in the house. So I texted him this last weekend and said, hey, we should start scheduling because it comes out 3 times a year. Our first one goes, dude, I'm out. I'm working pretty much full time for Tim. And I'm like, no. So you took away Nader from me. So I'm not happy. That's Nate Davis, of course. That kid's awesome.
No, he's done a great job and done that. He's one of the growers that helps out and grows this plant. But his knees were starting to get bad and everything else. So it's that. I mean, those sprayers are heavy, man, to tromp around and stuff. So
I know getting old sucks.
He sold his company to a really good company that's going to take over and everything. So and they do a really good job.
Well, good. They better, because it's going to be harder to place Nate. So before we get into all the cannabis stuff, but first, again, this is our 4th annual show that you come on every year. Most people know who you are, but if people don't know much about you, give us a little bio. Tell us a little bit about you, where you're born, raised, grew up, and then how did Ignite Dispensary come to existence, and then we can talk about Ignite Dispensary a little bit. But first, let's start kind of from the beginning. Where were you born and raised? What's your story?
Yep. So I was born in Eau Claire. About 2 weeks after that, moved up to Spooner, Wisconsin. My family used to own Harriet's store back in the day.
Yeah.
That would have been from 78 to 86. So one of my first memories as a child was actually the Oak Lake fire. Which is kind of crazy because they made us evacuate because we had gas pumps, but then they called us back because the firefighters needed food and water. So they actually kind of set up central command around our store. And I remember making sandwiches, being a little boy and watching the fire trucks and stuff. So then I ended up moving to Shell Lake and graduated from Shell Lake. Attended the University of Minnesota Duluth for business. Currently, my full-time job is I'm a financial planner. I help people with their money and manage these volatile markets at the moment. I also manage our family farm down in Illinois, so I deal with the commodities, selling, trading, and management of that. Also putting in some solar panels to diversify the farm income due to commodity pricing. I help my wife on this, but she is one of the owners of Global Organic, which we manufacture a lot of product lines, the balanced product line. So any of the, facial stuff and everything, the pain salves are made by her, and, with the formulations and things. She's basically a self-taught herbologist, really big into sourcing all natural ingredients. She taught me about, and she's gonna yell at me, but helichrysum, and I don't even know if I pronounced that right. So, which is this?
It sounds like it'd be right.
Yeah, it sounds this tiny little flower that grows in like Greece and Afghanistan on the south side of the mountains, and it takes thousands of them to make this little ounce of oil. But it's one of the most anti-inflammatory, pain reliever, discomfort, essential oils out there. Then we also have the retail stores. We are up to 9 now. We just opened another one down in Toma. There's a few other shops down there, but the problem is that there's so many of these products out there, and there's so much junk out there. Nobody knows what they're talking about. So, our stores, we pride ourselves on quality and education. It's the number one thing. Like, you can come in here and ask every one of my employees, and they can give you recommendations. They can describe the cannabinoids to you, the terpenes to you, and actually guide you on certain things. Like, one of my best selling things right now, and I know, like, everybody's like, oh, Delta 8, Delta 8. Well, I've got a nun that uses Delta 8 for the neuropathy in her feet. And these gummies right here, they're a sleep gummy. They've got passion flower, chamomile, lemon balm, melatonin, and Delta 8 in there. And these things are probably the best thing that I've ever used to sleep on, aside from our chill tincture, which has linalool in it, the plant terpene of lavender.
So you explained this to me, I don't know, it was last year's show, the one before, but now I've kind of forgotten. Delta 8? Delta 9. I think we were having a conversation about Delta 9, but now, and that's a whole show. But if you can kind of just like the Cliff Notes version for people who don't know what that is.
So I like to consider Delta 9 the fun cannabinoid. It's the one that gives you the more psychoactive effect and fun things. You can use it for other things as well. Literally, you've got, in psychoactive effect, you've got THCP, THCO, marijuana-derived Delta 9, hemp-derived Delta 9, Delta 8, Delta 10, Delta 6A, 10A, THCV, CBN, CBD, CBC, CBG.
That's it?
And that's just a portion of the total of 113 different cannabinoids that we know about this plant so far. And we're learning stuff every day. There's something that's called canaflavin B that is inside of CBD oil, and it's like 30 times as potent as ibuprofen, but it's like $1,000 an ounce right now. So again, we're learning new things all the time to help people with the medicinal properties of this plant. Because in our world, cannabis is medicine.
Yeah.
I know there's stigmas behind it. There's this, that, and the other.
I get it, but we have a comment here from Monica. I went to Ignite in Spooner this last summer. He's right. They have better, safer products than lots out there.
Thank you, Monica.
So why is that?
I don't know. There's a lot of less reputable shops. The big thing about this is that, I don't, and we'll talk about this later about the challenge to lawmakers and stuff on this, but, there's common sense regulations that we can come up with to keep people safe, keep this out of kids' hands, but also help the people that want to use an alternative medicinal product of a plant. Half of my customers are over 50. They are literally, half of my customers are over 50 now. So, and they're looking for something else for their pain, discomfort, helping with, sleep issues, things like that. And there's the less reputable shops, they're just out to make a buck. And, the big problem is the gas stations. You know what I mean? Like these products should not be next to candy sitting next to the register. I'm not going to call out the gas station, but BP gas stations are one of the worst offenders on that. And there's others too. So, and then, we can get into the low dose side, which is what I call the microdosing, versus high strength stuff, which, this high strength stuff, it can cause major problems with psychoactive stuff. So why don't we just get some common sense regulation and regulate this stuff? Get $200 million in tax revenue back into the Wisconsin state to help law enforcement. We can help rehab facilities out. There is a lot more problems out there than a plant right now, with fentanyl, drugs, things like that. And the other part about this is the safety. In Chippewa Falls, they found 2 bags of street-bought marijuana that had fentanyl put into it. So, and then, me, like I think about back to things, and you look at all these either cartel busts or now they're actually busting Chinese national grow operations out in California. And what are they finding? DDT, 55-gallon drums of DDT. So you spray a plant with insecticide and it gets concentrated down to a pure form, and then you inhale it. That's where all those the lung thing problem happened from before. That had nothing to do with nicotine vapes, even though the American Lung Association decided to throw that down the rabbit hole, which is a whole nother thing that
Sure.
is about to get passed in Wisconsin that is, very detrimental to a lot of people looking for alternative types of means to get off of smoking or things like that, because these kids are not getting vapes from stores like mine. They're getting it from non-reputable gas stations or non-reputable smoke shops, which they need to enforce them. I mean, I've got a guy up in one of my competitors, and he's been busted 5 times, and they still won't yank his license. But the problem is that these kids are getting them through the mail. So anytime that these lawmakers ban something, this is out in North Dakota, they literally banned everything under the sun: Delta 8, Delta 9, except for a 15-to-1 concentration. And you know what my customers tell me? Oh, no
Just order
worries.
online.
We just get it online now.
Yeah.
So now you're taking tax revenue out of the state. You're costing jobs in your state, when all you need to do is come up with some sort of regulation. And the one thing I will tell you, and it's hard for me to say this, but I'm going to give Minnesota major props on their low dose market. Their high dose market, it's ridiculously bad. However, their low dose market is very simple. They issue low dose licenses, so they know where these products are being sold. That money goes to enforcement to make sure that these people are selling the right stuff. It's not that hard to get them in age-restricted stores and get it out of the commonplace, so adult people that want to use this plant medicinally can do so, and keep it out of the kids' hands.
So we had Michelle Ferretta had commented earlier. I have a family member that swears it helps her Lyme disease. That was a thing.
Honestly, it does. There's a lot of other things to that too. My father-in-law actually has anaplasmosis, which is a form of Lyme disease where the spirochetes actually penetrate the blood-brain barrier. And I mean, we put him on a very high dose of CBD oil to help counteract that. And he's done a few other things like some cordyceps mushrooms and ivermectin regimens and stuff to help that go away. But yes, it does. It can be beneficial for that as well.
And former Representative Angie Sapek says, "Good morning, gentlemen. I went to Ignite in Superior. So organized, clean, and nice. Yes, I go to your shop because you guys have cigar. That's the important part for me. Ignite Dispensary in cigar. I do like cigars, and your humidor there. And I just looked up on your website to see what those nines are. You have it says Bismarck, Hayward, Manitowoc, Milwaukee, New Richmond, Spooner, Superior, Webb Lake, and Toma. Webb Lake, where's that one?
We just put up a little satellite store in next to Brandy's Bar and Grill.
All right. And Renee says, love how it helps my chronic pain. And that is a big component of this, right? Yeah. So when we first started doing this show, our yearly show 4 years ago.
Ben, just since we're on this topic real quick, yeah. Can I read just one statement from a veteran real quick?
Yeah.
That is so powerful to me, because the amount of veterans that I have helped with PTSD, which is one big thing about this new vape law. What are my customers with CBD vapes gonna do after this law goes through here?
Okay.
But they're about to try to ban this stuff in Texas, and instead of the lawmakers reaching out to industry professionals like myself to try to craft common sense regulations, they're just taking the easy road out and banning everything. So this vet says, 4 years ago, I began using high quality hemp-derived consumables like microdosing. John Jowers, a disabled combat Marine vet. Within just 2 months, I was off all my prescription medications except for my diabetes meds. The 11 drug interactions that once sent me to ERs and hospitals simply vanished. I transformed from a man burdened by thousands of pills into a high-functioning individual, a better husband, father, and person, all thanks to these products. I stand before you today to ask, please do not ban a product that has given me and countless others a second chance on life.
That's legit.
That is powerful. And that's I can talk it through my teeth on this, but a statement like that is what proves this. I just met with a Wisconsin representative, and I'm hoping that he takes me up on my offer to come down and work with these committees to craft common sense regulation stuff.
Who'd you meet with?
Chance Green, amazing guy.
He's your representative here in our area.
Yep. So he actually came to my store, and I gave him a big tour of the store. By the time that we were all done, he was a little deers in the headlights. I'm not going to lie, but there's a lot of people that know about this plant, and then there's people that know about business, but how they work together and with regulations and enforcement, ATF. I mean, my challenge to lawmakers is reach out to people like me. I am offering up my services to help Wisconsin craft common sense regulation in the low dose market and hopefully in the future, the high dose market.
You brought up, I do want to circle back to the tax, the 200 million. I want to get to that. I want to get to, I was about
we do need to talk about this vape law quick.
Yeah, no, and that's what I want to get to right now. I just want to be clear. I also want to talk about kind of where we are in the legalization of marijuana in terms of the politicians that you talk to, kind of where law enforcement. There's a lot still to get to, but you kept bringing up the vape law. What is that?
So basically, in 2023, Big Tobacco, Philip Morris decided to slip amendments into this Wisconsin law. Well, the legislatures, even Chance had no idea what he signed. He even told me that. Because what happens is that in Wisconsin, all right, let's back up for one quick second. The FDA, once vaping got put in the realm of tobacco, okay, then they had to file what's called a PMTA, pre-market application, okay, where they're talking about these flavors. And I'm sorry, adults like flavors too. You know what I mean? The problem is just getting it in age-restricted stores. So unless your device is on that registry, you cannot even get it on the Wisconsin registry. And then once this law goes into effect, basically all vapor products, unless you are on this registry, are completely banned in Wisconsin starting July 1st or September 1st. I keep hearing two different dates, okay? Which means, and I get this, but I mean, I have law enforcement that comes and uses vapor products rather than smoking cigarettes, things like that. But what the problem is that they signed and they don't realize these unintended consequences is in Wisconsin, we are a vapor tax state. So I pay 5 cents a milliliter for any nicotine vape or cannabinoid vape, okay? So there is no possible way to file a PTMA application for a cannabinoid product in the vapor form. So technically they signed a law to not just eliminate all nicotine vaping products in Wisconsin, all the cannabinoid vaping products are going to go away as well. So, way to just give more money to the other states. I mean, there's the statistic, and it's, over the last 3 years, we have paid over $1 million in vapor and sales taxes to the coffers of Wisconsin. That goes to pay for all this stuff. So all that money is going away. So they better have other ways to be able to come up with this stuff. And, and it's just, they just take and I don't want to be bad about this, but they keep taking the easy road out instead of reaching out to business professionals to craft common sense regulation. Just get it out of the gas stations, get it in age restricted stores, sell it like liquor or alcohol, rather than just ban everything, because what is going to happen is everybody's just going to order it online or go to another state.
And you don't know where that's coming from.
And you don't know where that's coming from. These kids, that's where these kids are getting this stuff from, is through the mail. I've done it multiple times. I ordered a vape for my 4-year-old son just to try it. Yeah. I mean, I used his name, you know what I mean?
Because okay. I was like, wait a minute.
Not for him, but...
Okay, so all right. I love you, buddy. I've known you for over 30 years, but I was even like, wait, did I hear that right?
No, you did not hear that right.
Okay. That's funny.
So let alone all that tax revenue is going to leave the state, then we're also losing out on $200 million in cannabis revenue. So, again, I really hope that they take this off of the books and reformulate this law. And I understand we got to get this stuff out of kids' hands. Yeah. The other problem is that, Philip Morris knew exactly what they were doing on this. So back when, e-liquid came about, they were losing market share, right? So what did they do? They bought Juul, up the nicotine level. Like most vapes are, the e-liquid stuff is only up to 18 to 24 milligrams. Well, these disposables and Juul are 25 to 50 milligrams of nicotine. So they upped the nicotine level to get people more addicted, started adding flavors, started marketing to children, because they knew that they were going to get shut down. And they did. They got shut down. They pulled back from the market. And what are they doing now? They're filing all these amendments with the states to try to get all the other stuff banned. They're trying to, and then their product is, of course, one of the products that is a registered
Well,
product.
that's ironic. I mean, wow, who'd have thought?
Who'd have thought big
Who'd have
tobacco knew
thought?
what
So
the heck
let me
they're
go.
doing?
Hold on a second. So you said something was passed in 2023, but it's something
Yeah, I
isn't
can
starting
pull it
until
up
July
right
or
now.
September. So I'm confused at which. So
I'm sorry. It passed in 23, but it goes into effect
yeah,
on
sometime this year.
yes,
Is there an
sometime.
opportunity when you talk to Representative Green? Is there an opportunity for this to not happen? Can they bring this back up, or is it no? It's a done deal now.
I don't know. I really don't know, bud. But like there is, again, they signed something that they didn't know what they were doing because, again, we don't have a nicotine tax in Wisconsin. We have a vapor tax. So because this law went into effect, I mean, I'm actually working with lobbyists and trying to get down and to work with these representatives to actually figure this out and try to hopefully scrap this and just come up with something different because I understand there needs to be we desperately need regulations in vaping and in cannabis, but the outright bans are not the problem. We know prohibition does not work, because what do? They get it from other states. They get it from the black market. They get it, through the mail, and then you never know what you're getting.
Yeah, Michelle. First of all, I immediately think you're awesome, Michelle, because I love this comment. What do you mean our legislators buried bad policy and set a larger bill to protect bigger companies? Rofer/Wira. And if anybody, I'm sure most people don't understand the Rofer-Wira thing, but you're spot on, Michelle, because that is a dumpster fire. It's basically Rofer 2.0, and it doesn't matter. I don't want to get into all that stuff.
No, it's all good.
Renee says Evers will never change. So our issue will never be better while he's in. That's my opinion. So let me ask you something, Tim. When you do talk to, so we're talking about vaping right now, but let's transition over to legalization of marijuana. 4 years ago, every year we do bring this up. Is where are we? Are we further ahead now? Because at some point it's going to be legal. I mean, I think we can all agree that that's just going to happen at some point, whether it's in 2 years or in 30 years. It doesn't matter. It's gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
How much closer are we now this year than we were last year?
A little bit, and that is because now we have to separate this now between high dose cannabis and low dose cannabis with microdosing. Okay, so again, there was there's beverages like this that actually have microdose THC in it, 10 milligrams.
Can you explain microdose? It just means a small amount.
A low dose of Delta 9.
Got it.
So, okay, when you smoke marijuana, every hit that you take is probably, especially now with the strength of marijuana, is anywhere between 20 to 30% THC. Okay, every hit.
Okay.
When you have a beverage, this is just a CBD beverage because I'm not going to drink THC this early in the morning. So the microdose is 10 milligrams. So again, like I've got a gummy that especially my elder women really like that has 25 milligrams of CBD, 5 milligrams of CBG, and 5 milligrams of Delta 9, which just gives them takes the edge off of their discomfort, helps them sleep, things like that. That is considered a microdose. So again, there's two different factors on this. Now, back to your question, are we a little closer? Yes. And the reason is money. Because what happened is that who's been against us this entire time? The alcohol industry. And what the new poll, 74% of Americans think alcohol is more harmful than weed.
I can believe that.
Yep.
Where was that poll from? Do you remember?
That one was. I'm sorry. I should have
that's fine. I
cited.
just didn't know if you had.
I apologize. Yeah, you can look it up. Of people age 18 to 24, 69% prefer marijuana to alcohol. So you take Diageo, which is the number one liquor distributor in the country, when their revenues are down 6 to 7% year over year, they need something to fill this gap. So my partner is actually on the U.S. Hemp Roundtable out in Washington, D.C., that actually got there and speaks to the big boys crafting this legislation. Right? So what's going to happen is the Fed is going to legalize low dose and then put it down to the states to craft their own regulations. So Minnesota, they've got a 5 and a 10 milligram limits or whatever, which is good. You know what I mean? We need some sort of regulation and limits on this stuff. That's the low dose market that we're talking about here. Okay. Mm-hmm. So now all the liquor distributors, beer distributors, and everything else, they are bringing in these beverages to help fill the void, which is a great thing for people like me. I don't drink anymore. I'm an alcoholic. I miss going out to the bars. I miss socializing. I order a stupid cranberry juice and, whatever. Now I can actually go out there and drink, 4 of these and get 20 milligrams and, have a fun time and hang out with my friends. It's nice. So, we are a little closer. Once this low dose stuff gets figured out, it's kind of like a transition to get into this higher dose stuff. And again, that needs regulation too. I mean, these vapes and stuff, or high dose gummies and everything else, it is crazy. And, there can be, schizophrenia effects and things like that. So let's just, again, figure out some common sense deal. Let these products get to people that need them and want them, adult people. And then, let's put some regulations on some of the super high dose stuff. I mean, I know people that can, they take 50 to 100 milligrams of Delta 9, It's crazy.
So you're saying that because the Tavern League, people are not aware, is a gigantic lot. I mean, oh my goodness, the money they spend on lobbying is just, it's very, very high. Not banging on it. That's just how it works. You get the money. That's what you should do. But you're saying that the Tavern League is, because they've been kind of against.
But now they're starting. No, now I mean, we just have our product with General Beverage and with Saratoga, and there's countless other brands out there. So. With our global organic company and Balance Naturals and Foundry, Minnesota's really saturated in Wisconsin. So, we actually are in with Total Wine in a lot of states and things like that, which is kind of cool. So,
Stephanie says, hello, Wisconsin native moved to Arizona for legal access. I work in the industry. Wow. I had to move to Arizona. So how long do you think it's going to be? So when you do talk to, you were talking to Representative Chance Green. I think you've talked to like Senator Quinn. I don't know, maybe when he was in the Assembly or in the Senate. You've talked to others about this. Is that what's starting to move the needle for them? Is if the Tavern League is starting to kind of back off a little bit, is that becoming more impactful to the legislators that you're talking to? That okay, that's a big deal.
They're opening up. The people that have been alive during the 1960s, during the major prohibition stuff, they're not around as much. Again, nearly 2/3, 65% of Wisconsin people support legalizing cannabis. And it's even higher on the medical side of things, but medical is not the answer. There just needs to be. We just need to figure out regulation in the whole industry. Because there's so many people that use this product that wouldn't qualify for a medical license.
We have a comment here from Shane, just copy Michigan. On this one, it's okay to look at our neighbors' homework. Wisconsin won't legalize it with how big our beer scene is. Well, I think we kind of addressed that, but what is Michigan doing? And do you like what they're doing?
I do not like what they're doing. They've issued it's a free for all up there. There's cities that have so many dispensaries and stores in it. They've issued way too many cultivation licenses to which just drives down prices and the quality. I mean, I actually have better quality flower here, than in Michigan, which that's a whole nother thing that we could get into is THCA flower. But it's a long story short, I flew out to Las Vegas and went to a dispensary out there. And then basically I was like, oh, what am I going to do with the rest of my stuff? Give it to the maid as a tip. And then I look at the lab report in it and it's 0.265 Delta 9 THC. I'm like, this is THCA flower. Like, why are they selling it at a dispensary? Threw it in my bag and flew home.
We have a comment here from Jay. Keep up the good work, both of you. Cannabis may not be for everyone, but it certainly is not a crime. Decriminalization is a low-hanging fruit here in Wisconsin. Jay, I'm so glad you brought that up. I was talking to my wife, Jerusha. Well, Jerusha, I was talking to her last night because she said that she saw that I posted that you're going to be on the show, and she said she always enjoys it because she learns a lot about this stuff as well. Because I can't listen to potheads on social media, and I'm literally calling them potheads on social media because that's what they are, right? They're just crazy. Like, you're the only person I can talk to that actually is, okay, here's what's really going on. But that was one thing that Drew and I talked about last night, and I had said, regardless, I'm getting closer to that. Yes, medicinal, done. That's stupid. Why we aren't already doing that? That's stupid. because we should.
Education, though, is what you're hitting on right here is
Yeah,
education.
yeah,
So
100%. No, I absolutely agree with that. But when it comes to
me or
decriminalization, I am
yep,
all for that. We
yep.
absolutely should be doing that. I don't know if that's like the next step, if you kind of look at it in phases in order to get there. Where that falls in, I'm not sure. But at the very least, we should be looking into the decriminalization of that for lower amounts, etc. I mean, just saying. Because law enforcement, contrary to some social media potheads, and again, I say that in an absolute derogatory way because they're just crazy. Like most people are legit and they totally are smart and capable, intelligent, rational, logical, and reasonable. But then there's some that aren't.
Right. Oh yeah. No. Exactly. Yeah.
And they're making the case worse most of the time.
You know, when we got into this hemp industry. You know what I mean? And we actually just have a little showcase and actually grow our hemp plants right here in store for our little showcase.
Nice.
We got our new little bud bar. This is literally my education book right here. That we go through with lab reports and product information. So again, education is the key here. The more we can educate these lawmakers and other people that have stigmas against this plant.
Yeah.
I mean, I have nuns that use this plant. I've got veterans that use this plant. That's half my customers are over 50 and they grew up in that prohibition era, like big time. So,
yeah, hey, Tim, I think you froze there for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, there we're back. Michelle has a question. How about Illinois? But here's the actual question I want you to answer. Can you compare which legal states you would suggest? So who's doing it right? Is anyone doing it right?
Or
right-ish?
There's so many factors to be involved in that. Illinois' tax revenue, tax on it is too much. There's too many licenses in Minnesota or in Michigan. The new Minnesota law is is a disaster. You know what I mean? Like their entire point in Minnesota was to give socially disadvantaged people access to licenses, and they literally just gave the entire market share up to MSOs, which are multi-state operators, because they're the ones that run the medical marijuana program and threaten to pull out. And then you also have, and then now all the licenses are going to all kinds of different people before any regular person can actually file for a license. So what legal state, I'm not sure, because again, they'll throw things in there and then ban other things. And, we just need to figure out a broad type of regulation, whether it's hemp or cannabis, and bring them together, because all these other cannabinoids that these states are banning when they actually legalize marijuana are those cannabinoids serve a purpose and really help people with certain ailments, so we should just utilize this entire plant, whether that's in medicinal aspects or, as Chance Green talked to me about, hemp, it can save the world. It grows faster than trees. We can make flooring. We can make, if anybody wants to know what hemp can really do, look up the hemp house in Fargo. That hemp insulation, hempcrete, like they put a 500-degree burner on it and it didn't light on fire. So sustainable building materials, textiles, paper products, things like that. Hemp and bamboo are amazing. We don't need all this super expensive carbon capture stuff. We just need to plant hemp everywhere because it absorbs 4 times the carbon dioxide. Just carpet bomb, seed an entire area of it. You know what I mean? And it's going to help our climate.
You had said earlier, Wisconsin is missing out on $200 million revenue. Correct? Is that what you had said? $200 million. Where do you get that number from?
165 to 200. The numbers vary a little bit depending.
Okay. No, I've seen reports or stories about, we'll just say it's $200 million. I'm just using that same number in, say, Colorado or someplace that it's legal. That look how much revenue we're getting. And these aren't people that are banging on it that it's legal. They're just saying, well, just to be clear, that isn't entirely accurate. Yes, that's the revenue you get, but that state also had to spend more money on this, and I don't remember what any of those things are, like health services or something, I don't remember, that they didn't have to do before, so that brought the number down. But yes, there still is a net revenue. It's just not maybe as much. Are you familiar with that? Uh-oh, you're all blurry there.
Yep. Hold on. I know. I'm trying to get to a better. Welcome to technology in the 21st century. Sorry. 1 second.
Oh, oh,
Is
that's
that
nice.
better or worse?
Worse. I think you just need to when your camera's moving a lot. It makes your bandwidth work overload. So if you can, just try to keep your camera still, if
Okay. Let me
possible.
just get to my desk.
Okay.
Sorry.
Live shows. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
It'll
So
catch up in
camera
a minute.
still.
It'll catch up. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. So with this revenue, yeah, I mean, yes, the problem or the thing is that enforcement already does enforce a lot of this stuff. The
Mhm.
ATF can literally just take over enforcement of the marijuana industry, and they're primed and getting prepped to do that as we speak because they know it's going to come through. So, yes, there are other aspects to this about like driving under the influence and stuff, and they're
Sure.
creating actual like marijuana breathalyzers,
That would be
which are
huge,
kind of
man.
cool. Yeah, definitely.
Well, we were talking about how the Tavern League, if they're kind of get behind it, that's going to be impactful to legislators. Another thing that would be hugely impactful to legislators if they start lobbying the proponents for legalizing marijuana, start lobbying the Badger State Sheriff's Association, the Chiefs Association, the police union in Wisconsin, getting law enforcement not necessarily to sign off, but giving them the tools that they request and need. I'm not kidding. I think that would change way more people's minds than a lot of other topics that get brought up.
I think with the legalization of the tax on that, a majority of that should go to law enforcement to help them go after these harder drugs. I mean, like I said, fentanyl is ridiculous. I mean, it's, you know, cannabis is the only thing that comes from nature. I will repeat that. Everything else has to be man-made. Every other, type of drug out there or anything like that, even alcohol. Alcohol has to be fermented and created by man.
What about mushrooms or shrooms? I don't know much about
All
drugs.
right. Well,
Is that a
that's a
thing?
whole nother topic and show that we could get
Oh,
into
okay.
because, like, microdosing psilocybin, the vets that I've talked to that have to buy these magic mushrooms on the black market,
Sure.
you know what I mean? Like it's been amazing for their PTSD, and I really hope that the lawmakers start to allow research into that, legal research into that because it is truly helpful if it's managed properly. Again,
Sure.
it's
If
managed
it's yeah.
properly, regulated
And you've
properly.
been saying that. I mean, again, you and I have known each other for over 30 years. But I have so much. I'm not kidding about this, Tim. I respect you so much
Thank
on
you.
how you do your business. You communicate with law enforcement. You work with district attorney's office, judge, anyone, right? And you
Yep.
are the ATF. I mean, that is huge. And the fact you said earlier that someone in another place, one of your quote unquote competitors, has been in trouble like 5 times and they're still open. Like what? That is so
Right.
dumb. But how much time, energy, and effort that you put into it, just from a business standpoint, like get rid of the what the business is, just a business standpoint. I respect that so much. I want to get to this question here from Michelle. Can you discuss the banking/insurance situation with being connected to the industry, getting a loan for new businesses, getting insured are a couple of examples that she gave.
So, we desperately need the feds to, put some sort of regulation out there, the Safe Banking Act. I've been dropped by 3 credit card processors, had to switch within 7 days and find new credit card processing. Banking is ridiculous. A lot of the banks are starting to formulate things, but as an example, I've got one bank that requires me to send them quarterly lab reports, and all this is fine. All this is fine except for the last part. They require me to send them quarterly lab reports, do an in-store annual inspection, but then they also charge me $500 a month just to have a checking account to deposit cash and get change,
Wait,
which is at
hold on. $500 is that $500
a
just
month,
because of the business that you have? But
correct?
what does
A
the
month.
type of the business that you have anything to do with? Why do they need the
Because
$500?
there's no separation between marijuana and hemp. It's cannabis, and that's where the deal comes into play. So, yeah, insurance is difficult. It's very expensive. Lots of exclusions. But yeah, no, I mean it's not an easy deal, and the feds need to pass that Safe Banking Act. And also, there's a cannabinoid act that an Oregon legislator put out there, and boy, that is the most common sense law that any legislature has ever put out that I think of, because it tackles, it gives money to law enforcement. It talks about the highway department. It talks about, regulations. There's things that we can all agree upon. 21 plus, certified lab reports. Most of these non-reputable shops or stuff in the gas station, they don't have QR codes. They don't even test their products for quality or anything or potency limits. There's no truth in labeling. That is another big thing. I've got a competitor that has this vapor product, and he claims it's a THCA vape, and there's only 0.5% of THCA in there, when mine are 50%. You know what I mean? Like, it's a big difference. Like, so there, truth in labeling, required lab testing, not just potency, but like full panel lab testing to make sure that there's no heavy metals, make sure that there's no pesticides in it. These are hands down crucial things. And you brought up the law enforcement. I actually do law enforcement training. I have done presentations in front of the ATF. I've done it in front of drug task force, local law enforcement, to tell them the differences on this stuff, because these non-reputable shops are just selling this junk, and it's, how do they tell the difference on it? You know what I mean? And there's no lab report attached. Well, that's a flag right there.
Yeah. Well, going back to the educational piece. And that's what you do. You absolutely do. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, why do you think, so if you ask someone, do you think you should legalize marijuana? And if they say yes, and if you ask them why, it almost always starts with two things. One, well, alcohol's worse and that's legal, which I've told you before, that's a stupid argument. I mean, yes, alcohol is worse, but you're literally admitting that it's bad. So I'm just saying, don't start a conversation like that. It just doesn't sound good. You're not helping your case. Second, of course, is the money, which some people could argue, well, what are you going to legalize prostitution just to make money? So I get that stuff too. And there's a lot of justifications, a lot of reasons. But why do you think some people just don't say what they really think, which is, why do I want it legalized? I like the feeling. I like to get a little buzz. I like to get a little high. I want to do it legally. Now, all of a sudden, we're having a different conversation, because now that's kind of the same thing with alcohol. Why do you think alcohol should still be legal? I mean, aside from the economy, because can you imagine if we got rid of alcohol? Our economy would be like, unemployment would be through the roof. So we couldn't do that. But why would you want to? You could give all the justifications and reasons that you want, but ultimately it's, well, because I like to drink. I like the feeling I get. I like the little bit of a buzz. I like that. Why do you think that people who are proponents for marijuana don't ever say that? I never hear that.
Because of the stigma, they've done major campaigns to call this devil's lettuce and things like that. And we could get into that. But, like, the biggest thing is that everybody has a vice. I don't care who you are.
100%.
Everybody has a vice, whether it's gambling, whether it's alcohol, and this isn't bad or anything, but church, like, if you're feeling bad about yourself or you need to take the edge off, you go pray.
Yeah.
I do it. I go to confession. You know what I mean? So everybody has a vice and needs something to help take the edge off, whether that's prescription medications or anything, alcohol, it's
and we can argue all day long which ones are good, which ones are bad, but that's personal opinion. I just don't understand why it just doesn't start there. Why can't why can't you just say, like, I kind of like the feeling, and I want to do it legal?
It literally is starting. Like I told you, half of my customers are over 50 years old. And they literally come in and say, these prescription medications from Big Pharma are not working. I want to use something more natural to take the edge off, how many, again, I had vets that, that lost his leg in Iraq and had phantom pain, and he was on opioids and, drinking, and, it almost got a divorce because of it, and now Delta 8 has been his saving grace, and a CBD vape to help with his PTSD, because that gives that instant gratification.
Yeah.
So
Stephanie says the plant is genuine medicine to a lot of people. It's not always about the high. I agree with you, Stephanie. I agree with you. But I believe, and I don't think there's ever been a poll done about this, because if there is, I'm pretty sure it would be the overwhelming majority of people who want to legalize marijuana. It isn't for that. That's not the main reason. That's just my guess. I have no idea. Maybe it's only 1 in 3. I'm guessing probably more 2 out of 3 that want to do it because I just want to. That's all. And I'm not arguing that that's good or bad or it should or shouldn't. I just don't understand why nobody can say that. Just start at the place of transparency and honesty. I just want to get high, or I
All
want the
right.
feeling. That's all.
Yep. So, all right, my personal deal. Again, I'm an alcoholic. I loved drinking in college. I had so much fun, and I truly miss it. But it started to hurt my health. It put me into the hospital twice, and now I don't drink anymore, and I'm a better husband, father than I ever have been and yes, I like my cannabis. I like my sativas during the day because my sativas are uppers. I like my indicas at night to help me sleep. I like a gummy or a tincture to help me relax. And then like when I'm around the bonfire, yeah, you know what I mean? Like I want it. I want that high feeling. I want to have some fun. I want,
And
the
there's
same as
also
well.
multiple other benefits from it as well, but then nobody brings up but I like the feeling of it. And I don't think that should be taboo. It should be okay to say that.
No, I
Like
mean,
the feeling.
without that option, I probably would still be drinking because my body required that feeling, and
Yeah.
I've dealt with a lot of past depression and trauma in my life, which you know about, and not a lot of people do. But I mean, that affects people, and people need to forget about things, and whether that's alcohol or prescription drugs or street drugs, or a plant that has been around since the beginning of time that has been in all medications up until prohibition. Again, there's so many positive things to this, and we can regulate the negatives. But in overall, this plant is a very positive thing for the world.
Are there, you had mentioned joints earlier. I remember when I was younger, well, when you and I growing up in Chalet, you go to a gas station and they had zigzags, right? Just like the paper that you could roll things up. Now that I think about it, I don't recall seeing those anywhere in a long time. Do people still, are joints still a thing?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one way. That's one reason I don't think I could get it into smoking, just because if I actually roll my own, like I'm too lazy. Like now someone else is gonna have to roll it for me. I don't know.
We actually sell pre-rolls in tubes, and the new thing that we have now is called trailblazers, or which are like dog walkers. That's the term or whatever, but they're these little short ones. So people that don't want the big boy like around the campfire, they just want to take their dog for a walk and take the edge off from work, from a stressful day at work, and walk their dog. It's perfect little tiny little one. And so those are all over the place. And people roll their own and things like that.
Jay says in the legalization movement, we usually start with what Ben said. We use because we like the way it makes us feel, illegal or not. It's not typical. Oh, wait, good. So that people are saying that. I've just always wondered why people doesn't say that, because you can't tell me that's not a big component, and that's fine.
Jay, right there, he knows his stuff.
Does he?
He worked for Normal. He grew medicinal marijuana in Michigan.
Wow.
He lobbies lawmakers in Madison.
Boy.
He actually does the pizza pot party where he invites politicians to his hemp farm. And I actually donate a lot of beverages to there. And the best story that he told me is that a Republican lawmaker, and I'm not going to say the name, him and his wife showed up to their pizza pot party, and his wife went immediately to the drink table to grab one of the drinks. So it's changing, but again, on the Republican side of things, law enforcement, it's going to make their job easier. It's going to give them more money. On the political side of things, you look at the polls right now. I know you've got constituents that don't want this legal, but the majority of Wisconsin people want this plant legal. And again, we can come up with regulations to make this a safe deal and keep it out of children's hands, and not create a ban to get rid of a product that really helps people out and bring money and tax revenue into our state, rather than giving it to Illinois, Michigan, and soon to be Minnesota.
Yeah, so we're talking about like, when do we think it'll be legalized? If somebody asks me that question, I would tell them as soon as, which I think we're already seeing, but as soon as Republicans start losing seats, that's when all of a sudden it's going to get legalized, and that's coming soon. Like, no kidding. We already saw, obviously, this last November, Donald Trump had a good election, but if you look down ticket, Republicans will do very well in Wisconsin. And the next election, maybe not as much. I'm just saying that tends to move the needle for a lot of people.
Like, there's people that vote Republican because of a lot of other topics and things that they believe in and everything else, and that's their choice. even though they might, I know I have a ton of Republican friends that have voted for down ballot Republicans, down ballot, and they smoke. And, they're like, yeah, we don't agree with their stance on this, but we cannot let the liberals take it over. You know what I mean? So you're never going to like everything that lawmakers do. You're never going to agree 100%. You know what I mean? So there's got to be a middle ground, whether it's in politics, whether it's with this plant or legalization, that we can come up with a smart way to do it. That's good for business. It's good for Wisconsinites. It's good for law enforcement, and it's good for tax revenue.
Yeah. Tim, I love doing this every year. I wish 420 was like twice a year. We could do it more, but no kidding. Thank you so much. We've covered a lot of things. Is there anything else that you wanted to make sure that we talked about that we didn't get a chance to?
I guess the last thing, what I mean, is just I am literally offering up my services and my expertise in this industry to the lawmakers to help them craft regulations. Bring me down to Madison, sit me in front of these committees. I will go through the training and education and explain this to them and explain the differences, because it is very, very confusing. It is very confusing. And unless you've got your finger on the pulse of this industry, it changes so fast and there's so many different things, you know what I mean? And that's why they just kind of throw their hands up and ban stuff when that's not the right way to do it. Again, we can come up with ways to, help Wisconsinites increase tax revenue and things. Just they need to reach out to industry professionals that know what they're doing and what they're talking about, and how business and this plant work, can work synergistically together in the state to provide all these benefits.
Synergistically. I love it. And by the way, you've used so many words in the show, I'm going to have to look them all up later. Jay says 710 is the new 420. Do a July 10th show. That's funny. Awesome. Tim, thank you so very much.
I appreciate it, Ben.
Yeah,
thank you very much for having me on. And, thank you again for giving me this platform and having me on to be able to try to educate these people on this. So,
and that's what you're doing, and that's what we need. So,
a businessman and as a friend, sir, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And anytime, man.
Thanks, Tim. I love you, man. Special thank you to entrepreneur and businessman Timothy Frey for taking the time to come on for a chat today and discuss all things cannabis to educate all of us more on this topic. I'll see all of you on Tuesday when Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald and I will be back for our latest episode of Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy. So until then, for DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden saying thank you for watching and have a blessed day.
Thank you, everybody.